Hello and welcome to my YouTube episode number 67. This is December 2025 and I'm so pleased you're joining me today. I'm so happy to see new subscribers, and as always, to those of you who have been following me on my journey since the beginning, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Susan of Susan Stanley Stitch in Time, and on this channel we explore the stitching notions, material culture, and the makers of the 19th century, and we try to learn from their experience. On today's episode, I'm going to share with you a little bit of what I've been stitching, some recent releases, I have a few giveaways, and at the end, I'm going to do a doll bed turning for you. And what a bed turning is, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term, a bed turning is typically done at a traditional quilt show on a bed, and the bed is layered with a stack of several quilts laid out as if they were dressing the bed, and each one is pulled back by the docents there one at a time for you to see them being unveiled. And it's really a special experience if you have not experienced that before. Quilts were designed to be used on a bed, and so to see them in their natural habitat, I don't know, there's something really exciting about it. And of course they always pick the very best of the best and pull them off carefully and roll them back to show you expose the one that's below. And the bed is slightly tilted, but not much, and even not being able to have a complete view of it hanging is still very enticing. So I hope you'll enjoy my little doll bed turning at the end. I have been so busy getting things together for 2026. It is going to be a fantastic year of stitching and inspiration from our 19th century predecessors. As we continue our First Stitcher series, as I've mentioned before, it will involve a Quaker girl who is an actual person from a friend of mine's ancestry, and there will be some new cross stitch pieces coming and other fun stitchy goodness. So I am looking forward to sharing it all with you, and I hope you are all exploring the gentleness of the end of the year 2025 and looking forward to 2026 as well. On my last episode, number 66, I shared a quilt from the 1870s, kind of the centennial era that we've been talking about a little bit this year. And I had questions about the original, and I cannot put my fingers on the book that this came from, but fortunately in my package of the pattern that I used, that I drafted out for it, or that was drafted out for it, I found this picture. This is the original quilt owned by the Levi Strauss Company, and this is what I used as my inspiration for that quilt from the last episode. When I put my fingers on the book, I will be sure to let you know, because I know some of you really like to have that information, and I certainly want that information as well as I document my own piece. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for the question, and any comments you have ever, please share them with me. I love hearing from you. So I wanted to let you know about that. So what have I been stitching? Well, I have been traveling quite a bit, and I'm the passenger, and I can't cross stitch when I'm in the car. I just get car sick. So I'd like to take English paper piecing or hand piecing or quilting or something where I can look up and down. I'm not going to lose my place. Sometimes I can even stitch just by feel. I don't have to be staring down the whole time. So that's kind of what my focus has been since I last saw you. whenever I work on a project, I like to keep it contained in one place, so it's pretty easy to pick up and go if I'm leaving to go somewhere and I'm going to be the passenger, or if I have an opportunity to sit and chat and stitch with a friend. So a friend of mine told me about this item from, oddly enough, Target. It's a reproduction of an old tin sewing basket, but this one is designed by John Derian, and it was actually designed to hold cookies. And I loved it because it has all those fir or pine tree branches on it, and it reminds me of the Pacific Northwest where I live. And so I got it, and it's just turned out to be such a great travel tool. It has dividers. I guess it's, for your different types of cookies, but mine's got fabric, which is, in my opinion, better than cookies. And so I have it divided into sections for the different items that I'm using in this project, and I didn't have enough clips to clip the elements for each star, so I just put them in these glassine bags because I had a ton of these glassine bags. I know it seems like overkill, but I didn't want things to get mixed up in I could have pinned them, I guess, too, but then you have to have a place to care for your pins. So each little section has different items for the quilt, and it's been great. It's been really great, and it has a lid, so if it did get dumped over, everything's not going to spill out all over the car floor, the floor of the car, or wherever you are at the moment. So John Derian Christmas cookie tin that is now a sewing box. Oops. Okay, so that's what I've been traveling with, and what I decided to start on was something that is for another project, but right now I'm calling them my Solstice stars. And I will share more about what these are going to be used for later. I'm using templates and hand piecing, and the templates in this project just so happen to be stamped, and I will explain that a little bit more in a minute. If you've participated in any of the quilt projects that I offer, you'll note that there are a variety of techniques that I introduce you to, and I want to help you build a library of skills to draw on in your stitching and sewing journey, because I think the more you try, the more skills you have, the easier it is to transfer those skills to another type of project. So I give you the options of English paper piecing, hand piecing, and machine piecing, and in the kits I offer English paper piecing pieces, like this happens to be for the Ferebee Solstice quilt. These are some of the English paper piecing pieces that you need for this most recent round 3. And you can buy, you can get the kit for that, the packets for that. I also offer, and there are techniques on how to use English paper. All of this is explained in tutorials, but I want to explain to you why I have these different items. So that's for the Solstice quilt. You can also use templates. And traditionally, as we learned with Mary, they were tin or chipboard. And of course, now we've moved into a modern era and they are acrylic. And the ones I chose that I like to share with you are these acrylic with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and a window. And why do I like that? The outer edge is your cutting line. It's what you're going to use to either fussy cut a motif, or it's for placement. And that gives, that 3/8 inch seam allowance gives you plenty of fabric to wrap around the papers if you're choosing English paper piecing. Now, if you're choosing hand piecing, the inner line is exactly the same size and shape as the papers. All right, so that's going to be your sewing line. And you can then cut on the outer line and draw the inner line and have your piece ready for hand piecing. You can also sew on that sewing line, on that drawn sewing line on your sewing machine, but keep in mind that this is a 3/8 inch seam allowance, not a 1/4 inch, which is typically used for piecing on a sewing machine. So I mentioned that this current project is using an acrylic template, acrylic hand stamped template, and that looks like this. And so this acrylic shape is put onto a piece of silicone, and you stamp it just like you would a rubber stamp, although there's a special ink that's archival and fabric safe and doesn't load your stamp up with a ton of ink so that it bleeds through and all that. And I'm using that for this project that I'm about to show you. If you want to know more about that, let me know. But there are lots of options and lots of tools and lots of ways of doing things. And so Corliss, Farabee, the Teaberry quilt, they all allow you to use whatever technique you want and for construction, and they're interchangeable. And the beautiful thing is that you can use these techniques across your whole stitching journey. So what I'm working on are these really moody Solstice stars, and they have been so fun to work with. The fabrics and the pattern combinations I find to be just delightful. I could never work any other way. Lining up the plaid so that you get these bursts out. And so, I don't know, these just made me think of a winter night sky. They're kind of dark, they're a little bit somber. I lined up the stripe on that one. They've just been really fun, and they do, once you're comfortable hand piecing, they do go fairly quickly. Now, personally, I think if you have not done a lot of handwork holding fabric, I think English paper piecing is a really great way to start, because you have the fabric wrapped on the paper, and it gives you a little bit more security. But you know what? The little girls in the 1800s stitched on fabric, just like Mary did in her little doll quilt. So you can use whatever works for you, and I have tutorials for both options, and the projects that I offer will help you build your skills. Anyway, these have been really fun, and I'll share more about what this project's going to be in the future next year. And if you are interested in learning more about the option of stamping your shapes, let me know about that too. I did want to mention as well that if you've been working with fabric for quite some time, any length of time, you will have noticed that there's been quite a bit of change in what we call the gray goods, which is the base fabric that then the motifs and images are printed on. And the printing process has changed as well. And so the gray goods are just a little, they feel different, and the now digitally printed fabrics also feel very different, and they're different to work with. And so I will address later in 2026, I will start addressing how to care for these newer fabrics, because they're a challenge. And if you purchase any of my kits, you'll note that some of the fabrics are current printing, some are new old stock, which means they're still on the bolt, they're still brand new, no one's used them, but they are from earlier printing methods using different gray goods, and you can feel quite a difference. And I'm just curious, have any of you noticed this, or any of you, what are you experiencing, and what are your thoughts? I'd love to know. So recently I released some items on my website, and I informed my newsletter subscribers about it right away. And thank you so much for those of you who are subscribers and who participated in my Black Friday offerings. I had some treats for you there, and I just appreciate your support so very, very much. I have been so overwhelmed and so grateful for your response to the historic stitched ladies that I've offered, and the cross-stitched ladies. And Victoria 1883 was modeled after a Victorian era. The Victorian era, she's given a nod to the Dickens Christmas carolers that you just associate with this time of year. She was so fun to create, and her dress was so fun to research. And Clara, which I don't have, but I'll put a picture in here. She is modeled after the centennial celebration of the past, and as we move towards the 250th celebration of the signing of the Declaration of Independence here in America, she's a fun one to stitch. So thank you so much for your kind comments and your encouragement to keep going. I am so, so grateful. Victoria 1883, I have a few kits left, but the attic has a whole bunch, and if you need to pick up a few more supplies, I would definitely hop over there. You can pick up Victoria. You can also pick up Clara. Her kit is available at the attic right now, and I am so grateful to the attic for housing these two girls and putting them in their show, in their shop to display, and making them available to you. So I hope you will go over there. If you're in the area, I hope you will go in and see them. And the over one Victoria that was stitched by Andrea Ustaloo, Stitch Witch 1 on Instagram, and what is being finished by Carrie Barcroft of So Done, will also be headed to the attic. She's going to be finished in a delightful way that I think you will just love to see. So I wanted to let you know that those are available for those of you. I've had so many requests, and yes, they are available. I did make a few other items available on Black Friday, and I have a few left, so I'm going to share them with you here. If you are collecting fabric and you want time period fabric and you want to understand the dyeing and what went on, the printing of the 19th century, I have been offering what I call the Textile Interpreters Collection. And this collection comes with this gorgeous chocolate trim that can be used for finishing a pin pillow or a needle book or whatever you find useful. I picked this collection because I have been talking about browns, and in the 19th century they were referred to as toffees and chocolate and caramels, or caramels, depending on how you say it. And so I thought, you know, this color, I've talked about how I think it does a lot to add richness and depth to a pieced project. These are also perfect size pieces to finish the back of perhaps a little fall piece, maybe even a Christmas piece, I don't know. Anyway, so I have a few of those available if you're interested. And I do have, this is my last allotment of dressmaker shears. I will not be able to get them anymore, but I do have a few of those left as well. They come in this handmade case, and they are stamped with the logo for Stitches, and they're beautiful. I've tried them each one out. I've polished each one and made sure that they work perfectly. Let me see if I can hold that up there so you can see the logo. So I do have a few of those left, and those make great gifts, and they are offered to you. And then the last thing I wanted to let you know about, and I don't know if everybody was really aware of this, is this WorkBox Essentials little drawstring bag that I've put together. And I've combined the items and offered them at a more at a rate that is less than what you would pay if you were buying each of them individually. And I feel like each of these items are essentials for your work basket. And if you know somebody who wants to refresh their work basket or who is just starting out, I think this is a perfect gift. Or if, you need a little stocking stuffer or something. But each one has a waxer. These happen to be in the shape of a heart. These are beautiful, and they're beeswax, and they smell so good on your fingers. You need to wax your threads. I have a sewing marking gauge in the packet because measuring is an essential. And what I like about the gauge is it gives you this little movable locator. So if you are set on a number and it's not an easily identified number, it's a fractional number, you can just set it there. The arrow will point to the measurement and stay there for the next time you need it. My very favorite thimble pads. If you don't like wearing a thimble, but you find the tip of your finger is getting hurt, bruised, painful, jabbed, you just put these on. They're moleskin. They attach to your finger just like, gentle, but they stick really well. They're good for about 6 uses, maybe more, depending on how much fiber gets behind them. But I just find them to be really invaluable. It's a good way to transition yourself into using a thimble if you're not comfortable doing that. This next item is the Clover Seam Ripper. This is by far my all-time favorite seam ripper. It has a really nice base that is gentle in your hand, goes into the palm of your hand, so it's very easy to hold. And the inner loop, which is what you cut with, is really sharp. I have never, ever had to go back and try to cut the threads more than once. And if you know how to cut the threads in a continuous motion, this is the best. So these are my favorite tools. And then the last item is something called a Hera marker. And if you did the Mary 1840 quilt, you will know about marking the fabric without using pencil, without using chalk, without using anything. This is a modern rendition of the item we used in that project. And it just leaves an indentation in the fabric so that you know where to stitch. So if you're wanting to hand piece and you don't want to use any kind of pen or pencil or anything that's going to permanently be on your fabric, this is the way to go. This is useful for marking lengths. You can just, it's almost like tailor's chalk, but without the chalk. It just leaves an indentation. Okay, so I wanted to make you available, aware of those items. I also have a few kits left for Teaberry, which is the more modern, bright, cheerful pastel version of Farabee's Solstice quilt. I've got Farabee's Solstice quilt right here because I like to decorate with small quilts. So I got it under my feather tree. It was so fun to pull this out and see it after. I kept thinking about some of these items during the year, wanting to use them for props and whatnot. And it's like, oh yes, well, they're on the tree. I've got this wrapped up in plastic for most of the year. I didn't want to take everything off. Anyway, it's been fun to pull that back out. But so here's the more 18th century version. That's very time period specific, and then I updated it with these fabrics, and I'm calling it Teaberry, and last episode I talked some more about that. So I do have a few of those left as well. So I hope you'll join me on some of these quilting adventures, because I think it enriches everything that we do to know a little bit more about the breadth of what was done in the 19th century. So I'd like to offer you now I have some giveaway items. I'm so behind on this. I thought, gosh, I haven't done a giveaway in forever. So I'm really, really happy to give back to you, because you have given so much to me this year, and I thank you again. The first item, if you'd like to participate, if you don't know the rules for YouTube, you need to be over 18 because I'll need to ask you for your address, and I would like you to please be a subscriber. And so the items I'm giving away are a WorkBox Essentials Kit. So you just say Essentials, and it has those items I just shared with you earlier. Essentials. I ended up with 2 copies of this fabulous magazine, very inspirational, and if you're working on the coreless project, this would be really nice to have in your collection, because it explains a little more about the history of frame quilts in England, and as they came over to America, they were then called medallion quilts, but it's kind of the same, it's very much the same concept. So if you are interested in this, please say frame in your comment. Frame. And the last item is heavy, and so I'm going to ask only American people in the United States participate in this one, because it is a really heavy book. But it is an American Quilts and Coverlets Metropolitan Museum of Art quilt book, and it shows you several of the quilts in their collection. Very inspirational, and I would love to offer this to you. So we're just going to say Quilts and Coverlets in your comment for this item, Quilts and Coverlets. And I will draw for these in the January 2026 floss tube and make them available to you. So in closing, I just hope you have the very best Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. However you celebrate, whoever you celebrate with, I hope it's just a season of love and joy. And I can't wait for 2026, although I shouldn't live beyond. I need to live right now, right? Now is the time. So I'm just enjoying the season. I hope you are too. And 2026 has wonderful things to offer. And now, if you want to stick around, I'm going to do a doll bed turning, so you can experience some of the doll quilts I've made over the years. Not all of them, and some of them are, a couple of them don't have the binding on, but I put them in anyway because I wanted you to see them. So enjoy, my friends. See you next year.